Hey, what's up guys, Tony here, and you're watching a GRAsim league race. As a V8 Supercar, obviously, and this is not recorded live, which I imagine those of you who are subscribed to me are accustomed to, but the last, well actually this update in particular, for whatever reason, when whatever iRacing did, they really just killed the frame rates for me. And I don't even have like a bad computer. Like, I've got a pretty strong computer that I built so that way I could like game and record at the same time. And I used to get just disgustingly high frame rates, and now I'm just not. And I don't know if that has anything to do, maybe it was the update, I'm not sure. I mean, I went all last season without really any sort of problems, but this season now, if I try to record and race at the same time, I get like, I don't know, 40 frames, and it's a detriment. So I mean, for the safety of my fellow drivers, I just I chose these last two races to not record live. So I'm a little bit behind. Obviously, the last video that I posted I think was week 2, so this is the week 3 at Phillip Island. And I'm going to show you about 10 minutes of this video, or this race, just because it ended up being a really boring race. And so 10 minutes is probably a good idea. You can see all the excitement, and then pretty much from this point on, it remains this sort of like practice session where I'm driving by myself. Towards the end though, it did get a little exciting, but it was more, the only exciting part about it was just like somebody was closing the gap on me from about 10 seconds out, and I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna even worry. It's, you know, got like 10 laps left, it's not gonna be that big of a deal. But he kept closing the gap on me, and so the last like 2 laps I was like, oh, I gotta focus up. And nothing really daring happened. It just was it was just, you know, made for an exciting finish. But basically the first 10 minutes and the last maybe 5 minutes were kind of exciting, but the middle parts were just really it was just really boring. So anyways, I do want to talk about a couple things. First things first, I touched on a little bit the iRacing update. As far as like graphically speaking, it hasn't been friendly to me, and maybe it's just me, but I've actually gone and I've turned down like almost everything that I had turned up, because I had this thing cranked up to almost damn near maximum, and I always had like the 2048, you know, car, you know, textures on, which is funny because I've always had those on. Like, I never didn't, you know, I never not had them on. And of course, iRacing suggests that you only use those for taking screenshots and not use those for racing. I'm like, I've always used them for racing. But I've actually just taken a lot of the graphic settings and then just thrown them down as far as they can go to get the max frame rate that I can. Even that, it's not really working. So I don't really know what's going on. Maybe they'll fix it. I don't know. I just have a feeling it has something to do with the advanced shaders that you don't have to run, but if you want the, I don't know, the best looking, I guess, you need to run it. So I don't know. It's a cause for concern for me. And man, I don't know, let me know if you've had those same graphical issues as well, because my frames this season so far have been pretty terrible. The other thing that's been really terrible for me, and I know there's a lot of people that are griping about this as well, is I don't know if all series have this or not, but the dynamic weather for me is really turning me off to iRacing. And it's just because there's really no forecast. Like, before you'd have the forecast, you could forecast the entire season, which I thought was, actually last season they did that. They made it by week. You couldn't get the forecast until the week rolled over, which I actually liked. I thought that was great. That way people can't plan, you know, 12 weeks in advance. They can go through and build a setup and perfect a setup 12 weeks in advance running the same weather. I thought that was great. That's fine. Now the dynamic weather with the V8 Supercar, and it's my experience, the V8 Supercar in particular is very temperamental in that the change of the weather drastically changes the way the car handles. And so, case in point, there were conditions at Phillip Island where I was running really fast. Like, I felt like, you know, the car handled great. I just felt competitive. And then there were other weather conditions where all of a sudden it was like the car was understeering. I couldn't do anything about it. And so myself and some of the other V8 Supercar drivers have been griping about it. And my gripe is that they don't give us a forecast for one, but it's so random. From most of the time, from what I've noticed, is that when you're in a session, it's you know, like from session to session, the variance is not very drastic. but occasionally, and it has been the case on Tuesdays, where we'll be racing in a certain certain weather conditions and the public servers, and then we'll jump into the hosted session and it's completely different, and so your entire setup is thrown off and you have to go, and we've got 40 minutes of practice, so you're like scrambling to make a setup that'll work with the hosted session. So it's been a pain in the butt, and actually some of the official sessions have been drastically different as well. So like I went from one practice session where the weather, and what I did is I started writing them down so I could know what I'll be expecting per server, right? So anyways, sorry, there's someone outside my window, honking the horn. So anyways, if I run like a 129 or whatever, with X traffic or X weather conditions, and the next server I run like a 133 and it's got these conditions, so I just chart it so I can get an idea, and I make notes of changes that I made to help improve my time, so that way when I jump into the official server or into even a hosted server, I go, okay, these are the conditions, these are the changes that I made, and I just go plug them right in. Or I'll save a setup that'll say like track temp 97 degrees or track temp 83 degrees, so that way I can just plug it in and go. And that's kind of helped out a little bit. I've been doing that the last few weeks, but before it's just like it's all over the place. So it has made me very bipolar to racing the V8 Supercar, because it's a difficult car to drive as is, and then they throw this variable weather in there, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's just a pain in the ass. And so my solution, at least from my standpoint, is that I don't mind that the weather changes. Like, I don't really mind that as much. What I really wish they would do is I wish they'd give us like a 3-day forecast. So for the first 3 days, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the weather is like this. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or maybe it's every 2 days, or 3 and 3 and 1 or something. 3 and 3 and 1.5, I guess, counting half of Monday. I just wish that they would say, like, here's the weather, and within that forecast, it'll vary a little bit. Maybe a degree or two, the humidity might change, the wind direction might change, but here's what we're gonna run. So that's what I would prefer over just this blind sort of weather. And it's just, is it realistic? It's more realistic, I'll say. But if you're to look at any sort of professional racing series, those guys don't go into race day not knowing what the weather's. They don't wake up the next day and be like, oh my God, it's overcast. Where'd the overcast come from? Like, they have got a forecast. I mean, they've got the whole weekend forecasted, and they'll know ahead of time whether or not it's going to be, the probability is that maybe it's not going to be overcast, or maybe it'll be light overcast, or maybe it'll be sunny. So that's really what my gripe is. I just want to see more, I guess, more predictable factors in this, and not so just blind luck that you happen to get into a server that has good weather, or you just happen to have bad luck and you get into a server that has bad weather. So that's my gripe right now. That's my gripe with iRacing in this season. So that's why you're seeing a lack of videos. It's just for me, I don't have a lot of time. I put in so much effort into racing the V8 Supercar, but I really have lost my interest in racing an official. I haven't raced an official race in a long time, and that really started last season when we raced at Phillip Island. There were a couple tracks that I just lost interest, and so that's kind of where I'm at now. The weather is adding on top of this sort of loss of interest, and that's normal for me. If you've been around my channel for a long time, you'll know that I go through these times where I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm just not feeling this game, so maybe I'll play a lot of MLB for a while and I'll just get tired of it and I'll stop. Like it happened. You noticed, if you're an MLB fan, you noticed I put out a handful of videos, and then I just stopped because I just stopped playing the game. It's just, that's what I do. I go through these cycles. And so right now I'm at my lowest point for iRacing, which is about the same time last year that I decided to get in the V8 Supercar, because I'd raced 3 seasons, or going into my 4th season of GT3, and I was tired of it. And so now this is my technically my 3rd full season, but 4th season counting that half season that we had last season 4. So this is my 4th season of V8 Supercar, and I'm just kind of like, I'm over it. I just, like, every season I sought to learn something new. And so I did. So first it was just getting my hands around the car, and then the second was trying to be competitive. And I think last season as well, I started to learn how to blip. And so now for this season, it's just kind of, I don't know, it's just, I'm just not feeling it. And so I have started to learn how to left foot brake. So that's, I guess if I'm learning something, it's that. But like I said, on the whole, I'm just not feeling it. And I wish I was. And you know, because I'd like to run GT1. You know, I had one not so good GT1 race at the beginning of the season, and it's just kind of like, you know, I don't know, I'm just kind of like in that weird funk. So I don't know, let me know if you guys get into those weird funks. Like, I'm definitely on a low point for iRacing, and there are a number of other factors that go into it as well, but I'm actually going to talk about those in the next video, because I don't want to just spill all my guts right now. You know, I said I want to keep it about 10 minutes. So anyways guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I shall talk to you guys later.